What's going on, guys? It's Monday. It is the end of July, and it is Pontificating with Pete on Generational Change. And tomorrow is 3 weeks from Election Day. So it's great to see you all here. And of course, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you share the conversation. Make sure you're subscribed. We have got a lot to talk about tonight. There is a lot that we will discuss regarding our county Democratic Party. We'll get to that, not this minute, but we'll get to it. We will also get to what's been going on in the Olympics pertaining to Israel, and it looks like the protesting is getting pretty intense. A lot of people not liking that. And obviously, Tales from the Ground. Got a good one tonight to share with you guys. You'll enjoy. But one of the things that I constantly want to do, and this is part of what the growing nature of our movement is supposed to be about, we have to be very cognizant of a lot of things regarding the environment, particularly about what we're putting into our body. I know we're not perfect. We obviously try our best, but it is imperative that we learn about these things that make it, a lot of times we think that the way that we can be healthy, a lot of times people will take things that they shouldn't, things that are not really what you should be putting in your body. But there is a known supplement that I believe in very strongly, and that's spirulina. And we have a gentleman who's going to join us tonight to tell us why spirulina is so important. And knowing that we have more farmland that is being used for different types of agricultural purposes in the state of Florida, probably more than anywhere else in the country, if I remember correctly. I think Florida's number one. And so this will be a very interesting topic. If our esteemed guest is ready to go, I cannot tell. David, you ready to roll? Because I can't see you, pal. Now I can. Sort of. A lot of bright light. Ready to roll? All right. So our guest is David Crane of Sufficient Spirulina. Welcome to Pontificating with Pete on Generational Change.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here.
From one healthy living, or at least attempt to be as possible, a healthy living person to another. This is an important topic, and I think a lot of people need to understand it. So please tell the audience what it is that you do at Sufficient Spirulina and why spirulina is such an important vitamin for us to have in our.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have some right here. I just whipped out a jar that I harvested recently. You can see it right there. Really, seeing is believing. In a way. So I farm spirulina. I founded a Global Orphans charitable spirulina farm network that I call Sufficient Spirulina. And what is now Spirulina Development Institute, which is a specific charitable farm in Uganda where we're feeding thousands of people, including kids in 5 schools. And I am trying to replicate that model / the model here in Central Florida to save everyone's life. Humans who need to eat food, other animals who are currently cannibalized by primates, specifically humans. And spirulina is the healthiest food objectively by orders of magnitude. It's 60% protein. If you Google NASA spirulina, you'll find a 2022 article going on about it, 2011 article going on about it. And it's extremely highly researched. It may be the organism that gave the planet its oxygen initially. It's sufficient for the astronauts, and with 60% protein, the most nutrients of any organism, it happens to be a very bioavailable package of these nutrients. Its membranes are phospholipid, and it has 20% omega-3s and a plethora of other nutrients, including GLA and EPA, and a bunch of phytonutrients that are antioxidant, including phycocyanin, which is what has become kind of popular as so-called blue spirulina. And I can totally go on. I made Hager Spirulina Facebook group where it's just open source information. I'm improving it all the time. And if you can't find it, I'm very happy to send links, because for some reason when I look on other people's devices, it doesn't show up. But it's there on Facebook. And on Wednesday, I'm traveling to MycoFest 2024, the second largest mycological festival in the United States, where I'll be the first presenter on why and how to farm spirulina. And I was also invited to France, and we'll see if I could afford any of it. But it's the best. It's objectively the best. And I just hopped on the bandwagon for research that I found, and because I'm trying to survive, and I had a little bit of saved money from people who, from whose genitals I emerged and whose genitals they emerged. I've been able to afford to start a farm. To start a farm, all you really need is some flat, sunny land, ideally electricity, because you want these little propellers that I could show you that submerge in the water and that kind of stir it all up. And you need 95 Fahrenheit, ideally, clean water. And it's pretty low labor once you have all these things, 20 mil polyethylene geomembrane pond liner, some PVC to hold a greenhouse film on top to keep the rain out and the heat in, except for during the middle of the day in the summer when it needs to be vented. And otherwise, when you harvest, you just put a pump with a hose submerged in the pond, the so-called pond, the artificial bioreactor, and then you pump that through a 200 mil pre-filter and then onto a rather not mil micron, and then onto a 50 micron nylon that then collects the spirulina. You rinse that off, you can collect that up, and then based on a standardization one creates with how much water remains, one is able to go based on the recipe of minerals that I put on in the Facebook group, and then you know how many minerals to put back into the pond, and then more spirulina grows. It grows up to 50% a day, and it's extremely the best food.
So what is it that spirulina does physiologically if you do ingest it on a daily basis?
That's a good question. And as far as I know, people treat it as a supplement, and I think that has to do with mainly because of habit and because of like tradition and because of the momentum of what we've been doing, and a little bit because of cost, because instead of planting a seed, you have to actually create this infrastructure. And all that's to say, I am trying to eat it at calorie scale at 2,000 calories a day of spirulina, which is about 7 pounds of this really dense pudding like you saw from here. I'll actually grab a spoon while I'm talking, and that'll kind of show you how dense it is.
Sure.
And so what I noticed as I'm approaching that 2,000 calories is I'm able to breathe a lot better. Actually, my grandpa died from drowning on his own mucus. And I really noticed that in the world, there's zero infrastructure for expelling mucus like there is for expelling feces and urine. And we need to be able to breathe through both our nostrils, which is how we're supposed to be inhaling. We have 15% more nitric oxide breathing through our nostrils. And so that's one thing that I noticed the most. And it's extremely gentle. Actually, I researched recently stool sample science, and there's kind of the world's foremost stool scientist is saying that they've combed through tens of thousands of elite athletes who is just where they go first for their stool in order to do stool or fecal transplants to save lives. And they say that they're still looking for the person with the ideal stool. So I'm hoping to be that person eventually. And I do notice that based on the scientific data, the stool that I produce is objectively the healthiest. And those are just two, the stool and the breathing. I can just go on and on. I'm able to see more colors. My temper and emotions are better. And there's just, I'm just surviving the best. And I can show you right here, again, because seeing it is believing. You can kind of see how dense it is. It is extremely dense.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm to eat some right now, like this, I have to have water to wash it down because it is that dense. It is way more dense than steak.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it broken. I've seen it broken down into
more nutrient dense and
Can you hear
in
me?
every way than any other form of food. Even nut butters. Like I could swallow some nut butters, whereas this I absolutely need to have some water.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me talking or not because I was trying to.
Now I'm going to have a nice green smile.
I don't think you can hear me. I think there's something wrong with the audio on your end. Can you hear me, Dave?
So I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I've also been freeze drawing it. I happened to when I went on the Florida Permaculture Facebook group.
David, can you hear what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Or are you saying something? I can't hear you.
Yes, I am talking. You can't hear me. Something's wrong.
Oh no, I can't hear you.
All right, so I'm not sure what the.
My check.
Now I can hear you fine. You can't hear me, so I'm not sure what the issue is. Yeah, there's an issue hearing my audio, but you can't hear mine.
Can't hear.
I don't know what that's all about. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody on my end hear me? Tell me if you can hear me or not.
Huh? I don't know. I can hear you. Can hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna message you now. I'll message. Okay, so clearly there was a connection issue on David's end, but I think a lot of. All right, we'll try again.
I don't know.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
can you hear me?
Sorry.
If you can message him,
I
tell
can
him to
hear you
just
now.
refresh the
Sorry.
whole page.
Can you hear me now? I could hear y'all now.
Refresh your
Refresh the whole
page. All right, so I think he's gonna, because again, he's in the middle of Florida, and he is definitely doing this off your cell phone. And we will try this again.
Now,
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah. I really hope the audience is still with us. I don't know what you heard last.
No, I heard what you said. Because I've had spirulina broken down into powder form, and
Right.
even still, it leaves a very strong green residue behind.
Yeah.
I do take the. Is there really a difference if you take them in tablets, take them in powdered form, or take them in what is considered kind of like a thick yogurt type of style?
Kind of. Yeah, it depends. If it's been turned into those former forms with freeze drying, that maintains it's 97 or 98% of the nutrients. Otherwise, if it's air dried, then I haven't looked at the research, but it's kind of common knowledge that oxidizes the product. It tastes significantly worse. And I've sampled this to a lot of people, and they're often very surprised by how neutral tasting it is. And that's signature of how much the nutrients are maintained. The price for buying like on Amazon Chinese or maybe this Californian spirulina is a lot less than what I've been asking. And so that's something that I'm trying to match as I try to be a global leader and making this available to everybody. So that's something that I'm keeping in mind. And I have at times just recommended people to go to Amazon and get some brand that has like a white cylindrical tub. And it definitely goes a long way, like as a necessary food. I actually have bags and bags of other brands, other people's spirulina as emergency, and just as I was transitioning to being able to live in Florida and farm it. So that's kind of still emergency food that I'm keeping here because it is decent. Now that you mentioned, I should probably bring it to MacroFest so I can just sell all the food that I'm farming.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think it's spirulina is, like I said, it's something that I have been using for quite some time. I highly recommend it. It's just one of those. It's packed with so much good fear. It's a biomass of cyanobacteria. From where I stand, a lot of times you ask yourself, well, is this really helping me? Is it not? Somebody who works out almost every day, rigorously. I take the healthy lifestyle very seriously. I'm actually 41, and I like to think that I'm doing a fairly decent job of fighting the aging process. Spirulina is one of those things that definitely, if it is putting the micronutrients into your body that you need in order to have overall wellness, which it seems to be doing, and it seems to be something that you swear by, obviously, when you do it for a living. I just think it's important that people understand that these things are not hard to find in terms of what you need in order to live a healthier lifestyle. There's a lot of different types of vitamins that I take. Spirulina is definitely at the top. So is marine collagen, calcium, magnesium, zinc. I do have a calcium deficiency. Iron, because I don't eat red meat anymore. There's also, what else? CoQ10, ashwagandha, turmeric, curcumin. I think vitamin D3 and probiotic. So that pretty much, So that pretty much rounds out most of what I do take. And I think it's very important. And I think for all of us, it is important to know that you can eat right, you can exercise, but you have to take your supplements that are going to help you in the long run. And spirulina is definitely one of them. David, I really do appreciate you coming on. Obviously, this is all very important information, and I want people to be able to check out your work. Is Sufficient Spirulina a website? Is there a way that people can follow what you do?
I bought the URL, and I've just been doing the thing before I've been creating the reflection of doing the thing. And but I did make an Instagram, which is Sufficient Spirulina, and I can be found there. I can be contacted there, and they can see some of what I do. And then, of course, the Facebook group. If you can find it by searching how to grow spirulina, you can get involved, and you can turn the spirulina from a supplement to a whole food item that can fuel your calorie needs. And it's about $2 a pound if you're going to do the work yourself, dedicate your life to it, as you really should. You should move to a tropical area, farm it, and you'll find that it's cheaper than working for, doing whatever else and then spending the money on spirulina or a different calorie source.
100%. And if they can contribute to your cause, then I highly recommend that you do. Guys, that's the link for the Facebook page. Obviously, Sufficient Spirulina on Instagram. Make sure you get over there and follow it. Give a like, comment, do all those wonderful things. David, I really do appreciate you coming on. All this information, like I said, this insight is very necessary, especially as we go forward, with all the issues that we have with our food and what we're putting in our body every day. Spirulina is definitely a great way to improve the overall health of your immune system. So I highly recommend it. You obviously do. I'm looking forward to trying that jar of thick yogurt at some point. And obviously, all the best in the meantime, and appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much. Likewise, very much. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. Have a great evening.
You as well.
Bye-bye. So it is very important, as I say, from a health perspective, you want to eat, all kinds of healthy food. We know that. But at the same time, it is important that we are taking our daily supplements, because that really does help a lot. It helps with joint pain, for example. That's something that a lot of people do experience. And sometimes when you work out, and not necessarily that you're working out bad, but every once in a while you can work out and you can have a nick or an injury or, minor injury. Obviously, you don't want to have a major injury, but it is something to think about. So if you're not currently taking spirulina, I highly recommend that you do. So for those of you that are here this evening, obviously we've got a number of topics that we do want to cover. And of course, one of the topics that I do want to cover is what's going on here locally. It goes without saying that this is a very difficult time with the Democratic Party here locally, as well as nationally. When you see a lot of what's going on in terms of the whole Kamala coronation, and it's a big problem. Colin, do you have that email with that graphic that I sent to you? So this is important. I want people to understand. I'll tell you when to scroll. I don't see this as being something that is going to dramatically affect the election in a significant way. Let me be clear about that. The information that's being provided here is I think it's exclusively for the clubs and caucuses of the Broward County Democratic Party. And so, as I've been telling you guys for a long time, Debbie Wasserman Schultz runs the Democratic Party pretty much in the state of Florida, not just, what's happening here in Broward County. But this has turned into such a colossal problem that they're basically trying to pretend that this election isn't happening, but now they're trying to suppress that it's actually happening. They don't want people to know that this election is going to happen in 3 weeks. They have basically pretended all along that it never existed. And so please note, depending on where you live in Broward, you may see the following races on your ballot. The races listed below may not appear on all ballots. So the United States Senate, again, 2 candidates, Stanley Campbell and Debbie McCursill-Powell. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has endorsed Debbie McCursill-Powell. But as you can see right here, representative in Congress, Florida's 25th congressional district, only Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now, obviously, the local Democratic Party decided that they were going to endorse Debbie. Not surprising. Of course they would. But here's where it gets interesting. Now, if you keep scrolling down, you'll see Clerk of the Circuit Court, Charles Frederick Hall. Nice guy. We happen to know him. But he's also running against a lady that we're very friendly with, Brenda Foreman. And she's the elected official. So they're actually endorsing somebody against Brenda Foreman. Now you have the sheriff's race. Sheriff Gregory Toney is the incumbent, and he is an overwhelming favorite to win re-election. But there's also Al Pollack, or his full name Alvin Pollack, David Howard, and Steve Geller. And again, I don't have a problem with that. I think everybody has a right to know who's running for sheriff, and I think you could recommend whoever you like. The tax collector. Vote for one. Abby Ajay, Dwight Forrest, Perry Thurston. I believe Dwight Forrest is the incumbent. But again, another situation where there is a recommendation against an incumbent. Supervisor of elections. Well, now I will say this. I don't know if this had changed or not, but Joe Scott has done he's done a good job as the supervisor of elections. I have no issues with him whatsoever. I think he's fine. So if you're content with the current gentleman who's sitting there, that makes sense. Yeah, he does his job. So I have no issue there. State Senator, District 35. Rodney Jacobs, Chad Klitzman, and Barbara Sharif. Now, here's something that's also very interesting that no one is talking about here. Barbara Sharif, who Jen and I support, is the overwhelming favorite to win this race. Overwhelming. She's polling in the 60s against two other candidates. So she's going to win. Just so you know, Chad Klitzman, that's who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is supporting. Why? I think you could take a guess why. We'll keep going. State Representative, District 98. Vote 1. Keith Ebel, Shelton Pooler, Emily Rodriguez, and Mitch Rosenwald. Now, I do believe District 98 is an open seat. So that's understandable. And of course, we're all Democrats here, so let's all support the Democrats, right? Keep going. State Representative District 99. Darrell Campbell is the incumbent. I don't know enough about him in terms of what he's been doing to determine whether or not he's been good or bad. I haven't heard bad, so far as I'm concerned, and he may not even be being challenged, which is also very possible. And it's a very blue seat. So again, that's understandable. County Court Judge Group 6, Kate McHugh. As Jen has pointed out, and this is a lot on us, to be honest. We should live in a country where judges are appointed, but instead they're elected, and this is where things get very even worse. Again, there is no perfect judicial system and never will be. Just look at our Supreme Court. But when they're not appointed, when they're elected, they're getting money from industry that may or may not end up on their bench in a case where they're going to have to decide where they're going to support. That's a problem. So let's scroll a little. As Jen has pointed out, judges should never be partisan. And as you've pointed out many a times before, Justice Scalia was one of the most brilliant minds we ever had on the bench. And he threw it all away in Bush v. Gore. All away. Because he made it partisan. Now, granted, I'm sure there was a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but that was a big problem. And Bush v. Gore is where the partisan divide reached a point of no return. And we know it. Let's keep going. Yeah, so this is all, like I said, these are county court judges. I'm not sure which one are ours. They're obviously, again, this is the entire county, so this is not going to cover that much ground in terms of where we are in the southern part of the county. Keep going. And here we go. School Board, District 1, Maura Bowman and Chris Cantor. Again, they're the only two people in the race. This is a nonpartisan race, even though the two candidates identify as Democrat, for whatever reason. You know, there you go. Rebecca Thompson, who is the head of the Broward Young Democrats, is running for the school board and has gotten the endorsement. Again, not a surprise. Sarah Leonardi already sits on the school board, and a lot of people are happy with her, so she gets the endorsement. School Board District 5, Dr. Jeff Holness. He is also an incumbent. I believe his people are happy with him being there, so he gets the endorsement. And then finally, Debbie Hickson, who I happen to like, as does Jen, and she does a very good job. So it's not a surprise that she gets the endorsement for School Board Seat 9, the at-large seat, which covers the county. Okay, is there anybody else? Is that it? Okay, so let's go all the way back to the top. And Jen, just letting everybody know, she did vote for Debbie Hickson. Listen, Debbie does a really good job. For those of you who may not know, I don't like, again, it's It's not why she's there. She just does a really good job, but she happens to be the widow of Chris Hickson, who was killed in Parkland. She has an adorable son. She is a public servant, and she does a really good job. And if there is an elected official in Broward County that I wish more people were like at the county level, and especially on the school board, it is Debbie Hickson. She does a good job. And so for the Broward Democratic Party, and this again, we only know this because it went out to the Western Democratic Club. That's how we got the email. I don't know if it was intentional or not for it to end up in our lap, but it did. And so we get this information. And if you scroll down, you have a congressional race between Jen Perelman and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Keep going. Right there. When they did the voter guide back in 2020, Jen's name was on it. This time it isn't. Would you care to guess why? They are going to do anything and everything in their capacity to make sure that they protect this lunatic of an incumbent who feels that she has to do everything in terms of voter suppression tactics in order to keep her seat. This is just one part of it. None of the clubs and caucuses, including one, it doesn't matter. But there was one that I attempted consistently to have Jen come and speak to, and they not only wouldn't allow her, they ignored my messages. I don't want to hear anybody ever, and I mean ever, complain about democracy ever again, especially about Donald Trump, when this is the shit that goes on at the local level. This is what happens when it comes to protecting incumbents, especially filthy incumbents like Wasserman Schultz, who's as dirty as anybody in politics. And they know it. Anybody who says that they're not aware of what Wasserman Schultz is up to, or that she is attached at the hip to Bibi Netanyahu and the Israel lobby, they're full of shit. They know it all of them. But it doesn't matter, because at the end, this is about protecting the status quo. Full stop. Full stop. It doesn't matter. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how dirty it gets, they are going to go right over the ship. They will go right down with the ship. They don't care. And you know how I know? And I'm going to tell you all now, how much of it is going to matter? I don't know. I'm hoping. I don't know how scientific it is. But we got just under 30% of the vote back in 20. About a month and a half ago, we did a poll. Jen was at 41%. Now, how accurate it was, I don't know. Do I think it's possible? Based on everything that I've seen, being out there almost every day, knocking on doors, meeting all different types of voters, yes, I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible that Jen right now, considering that we have now hit, just so you know, what type of a campaign we're running down here, because I haven't really gotten into this, but I'm getting into it now. We are hitting over 5,000 doors a week. Do you know what kind of numbers? So that is as serious a campaign as anything you could hope for in a congressional race. By the time it's all said and done, we will probably hit 50,000 doors, and 50,000 votes was the goal. So if the only thing that we really need, let's assume that there's 2 or 3 Democrats per household on average that we need to hit. We just got to get one. We got to get one of them every time to say they'll vote for Jen. And that's not even counting. We have done 3 mailers, and we have done text blasts every week for basically the past 6 weeks. Now, name ID still has a lot to go. We've got 3 weeks to go. We're raising some decent money right now, which is great. Maybe we'll get one TV ad up once early voting starts in just under 2 weeks. But this is a real campaign. Yes, it's grassroots. Yes, it has no backing from the party whatsoever. But it is a campaign. It is legitimate, and it does have a chance. Is it going to happen? I don't know. We hope it does. But the Democratic Party, in lieu of what they're doing here in Broward County, has proven time and time again that there is no democratic process. Stop believing it exists, because if you challenge power, you will find out very quickly just how democratic the party really is. It isn't. It's not democratic. Debbie McCursill Powell is acting like she is already the nominee for the U.S. Senate, and she will lose to Rick Scott. And no matter who wins, will lose to Rick Scott. But the question is, who's going to have a better chance at putting up a better fight and potentially helping down ballot candidates throughout the state? That's going to be important. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz has endorsed Debbie McCursill Powell, whereas Stanley Campbell, who I personally think is the better choice and the better candidate, he was endorsed by the AFL-CIO of the entire state. So he's got a shot. And this is another thing that Wasserman Schultz has made a very big habit of over the past few years. She is sticking her nose in everybody's business. And usually congressional representatives tend not to do that. But she can't help herself. And this is just another example of the type of things that she does. I have put my blood, sweat, and tears into this for several years. And I will continue to do it. And I will never stop until that woman is out of power. But I think Jen's got a chance. Why else would they go to such lengths to do this? And I know they are watching. I know they know what we're talking about. I know they're aware. I see you, Alfredo. I see you, Grace. I see all of you. I don't care. I've got a good life, and I've got a career, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to come for everybody. That's a fact. So be ready. You could have had it easy, but instead you decided you wanted to have it the hard way. Okay, let's have it the hard way. You don't believe in the democratic process? Everyone's going to know. And I will keep spreading the word. And you know what else? I ain't done yet, because I got more to say. The election is on August 20th, 3 weeks from tomorrow. I'm in business. And I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt and trying to do things the right way behind the scenes without having to go public. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, even if it isn't what you want to do. But if the people in question take your professional courtesy and they spit in your face, you don't deserve courtesy. Then you deserve the hard truth, which is what a lot of people don't want to hear. But you're going to hear it. And you're going to hear it now. You think these progressive organizations are really progressive or that they give a shit about whether they help you or not? No, they care about their adjacency to the power structure, which is why they do what they do. And some of them decide that they're going to do what they're going to do because it's all about them. You think I care anymore? Hillary Keyes or Michael Calderon or Jim Langford? I don't fucking care. You know why? Because people need to know, first of all, that you're Zionists and that you tried every which way. And I ain't telling nobody who said anything, because it was a lot of people who reached out to me to let me know that this shit was going on. And they can't stand the fact that there are people who do not believe in the democratic process and they're involved in progressive organizations, supposedly, that are doing this. You're not progressive at all. It's actually pretty sad. I'm gonna choose my words carefully because I really don't want to go down this path. But I will not tolerate anybody stepping in the way of Jen Perelman against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Are you fucking insane? Don't ever fucking complain about Donald Trump again. You fucking losers. Jim Langford oversees a group called PDA. And he has been working overtime to make sure that his group doesn't do anything to lift a finger to help Jen against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I wonder why. I tried to speak with him privately multiple times. He refused. Okay, you leave me no choice. Now I got to call you out publicly. The same goes for Michael. The same goes for Hillary. The same goes for anybody else. There is no time. There is no place for this decorum bullshit in politics, especially when it comes to working people who can't afford to put a roof over their head, who can't afford food or medicine, or can't get a job that pays a living wage. And you play these fucking games still? You don't know how to build relationships. You don't know how to get people involved. There's a reason why people think the left is a joke and why they would never want to do anything with them, politically or socially. I have tried every which way to ingratiate myself with people, and I have a real career, and I have the potential to make serious money. It's not about that for me. I do this because I fucking care. I don't know what you guys are doing. I have been patient. I have waited. I have tried everything, and it doesn't matter. No one ever reaches out. No one lifts a hand. You know who does lift a hand? You know who offers to help? I'll let you know. People with jobs that are not progressive. People that see Jen for being a good person and isn't bought and paid for by corporate special interests. Jen has a lot of support from Republicans and independents and conservative Democrats. And Jen is anything but them. Jen is a bleeding heart leftist who believes in supporting the least of these, full stop. She doesn't ideologically line up with people like that. In almost every case. Certain cases, yes. But for the most part, economically, no. Doesn't. But they know she's good. And they know she cares. And they know she'll fight for everybody. And she's not bought. And she's not a genocidal maniac like our representative. History is not going to be kind to people, whether Jen wins or loses. To those that decided to either sit on the sidelines or worse, work against her in favor of Wasserman Schultz. Oh no. You're in a small echo chamber. There are so many more people out there who want change, who want nothing to do with the Democratic Party. Nothing to do with it. There's 330 million people in this country. And the Democratic Party wants you to believe that because 0.2% of the population is gung-ho about volunteering for Kamala Harris, that all of a sudden there is unstoppable momentum. Give people something to fight for. Give people reason to believe. There are people in these groups that are not actually on your side. And that can come from a multitude of different directions. It could come because they choose to fight against you, or they simply choose not to do anything. It would be one thing if our campaign had no legs, had no ground game, had no effort. It's just, making a good effort. But I knock on doors every day, usually on average about 3 hours a day. And on the weekends, it's probably about 6. And I get no money. I do it because I believe in Jen and I believe in the mission. And I will tell you that the attitudes of most people are overwhelmingly positive in her direction. Even the people that support Debbie. There is a feeling in the air that a change is possible. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. But I will feel good about knowing that we put our best foot forward. I felt the need to say the things that I said tonight because Jen is hurt and I'm hurt because we are trying to make things better. But there are people that will go to great lengths to make sure that that doesn't happen, to protect the status quo. That's why I'm naming names, because people that do that on purpose do not need to be protected. They need to be called out, and they need people to know who they are, especially if they're projecting themselves to be something that they aren't. That's a problem. How this will unfold, I don't know. I'm sure people will talk. Let them talk. And as Andrew would say, the DNC would rather lose with neoliberals than win with progressives. Appreciate you, Jay. It is about the status quo. There's a reason why Kamala Harris is the nominee, or will be the nominee, without a fight. There is a reason why Governor Walz of Minnesota, who is clearly the best choice, along with Governor Beshear of Kentucky, are not even in the top 3 of possible VP picks. Governor Shapiro is. Is it Tina Raimondo, who's now apparently a dark horse? Governor Cooper of North Carolina? Senator Mark Kelly? And every one of these choices are huge supporters of Israel. So keep that in mind. I don't believe Tim Walz is, and I don't believe Andy Beshear is. But when you want the Wall Street candidate, you're going to get one. Is it possible Kamala could be better than Trump? Certainly. But don't misinterpret what our system has turned into. We would be fools to think otherwise. And at some point, you got to say, fuck it. Got to try something else, because this ain't working. And it's just not. Debbie Wasserman Schultz works for nobody but herself. And anyone who's paying attention would know that. A lot of times people don't. I spoke to some people tonight. It was a very interesting conversation. One gentleman who lived in a tiny apartment, like he really had a hell of a lot going for him. And he took one look at it and said, I'm voting for Wasserman Schultz. But then a little while later, I turned the corner, I'm at another house in a much nicer neighborhood, and an 80-year-old gentleman sized up Jen and said, yeah, Wasserman Schultz has got to go. She's been in office for too long, and I think somebody like Jen would do the party really good. That is another problem. You have the print media, you have the TV media, you have everything. They will do everything to protect her, and they don't care. This is what entrenchment looks like. It's putting your hooks into everything. And whether you threaten them or you bribe them, you get them to fall in line. That's why Debbie raises all that money, so she can keep things exactly as they are. And if you think your life is going to get any better, it's not. This is exactly why this is. It's a huge problem. But part of the reason that a lot of this persists is because of the fact that there are people that you think are actually on your side, and in reality, they're not. They're just not. Always determine your support based on whether you're moving forward or backward or staying in one place. I am always moving forward. For whatever reason Jen doesn't win, I have a lot of things that I will be doing. I really do think, and at this point, I don't know how I feel. I really don't. I can't really tell you guys 3 weeks out whether I think Jen is going to win or she's going to lose. I don't know. Which maybe is a good thing. Because even back in 20, I wanted to believe Jen had a shot, but deep down I knew it wasn't going to happen. And I was cautiously optimistic because I saw Debbie out at the polls. I doubt she'll be out at the polls this time. We'll see. But I think because our ground game is so strong that maybe it is possible because the feedback that we generally get is good. And that's important. That probably as much as anything is really what it's about. If there's this longing to keep Debbie there forever, and we've met some people that feel that way, very rarely, but we've seen a few of them. Overall, though, people want change. And that much I do believe. And one of the reasons why we desperately need that change is because even if it doesn't happen in this moment, even though we hope it does, the fallout from whatever is going to be the conclusion of Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people is going to be so significant that we're never going to be able to look back on this in any way, shape, or form other than what it was. And Debbie's one of the very worst. So, of course, we're going to play this viral clip that came up the other day. I believe it was during one of the football matches, real football, at the Olympics. This gentleman was being interviewed. I don't remember which country he's coming from, but you'll get the idea when you see this.
And what do you think about the game?
I thought it was a good game. I thought in the beginning Israel was better, but now Mali is is destroying them, I think.
So, first of all, whatever this guy's intention is, and I'm guessing that Mali, is it Mali? I think that's what the country. I mean, again, I don't know that country, but I'm guessing that Israel did not win their match. Can anybody verify that for me? Because I mean, listen, I'm not gonna. Karina, come door knock with us, please. It's good to see you. And yes, clearly Kamala was going to see a significant boost over Biden. That should definitely be expected. Even if Trump still wins, there is no question that that's a big deal. Oh, thank you, Andrew. And what's the name of the country? But look at this guy. You could see and again, have you ever noticed that the Israelis are always so pissed off? So this is a 1-1 tie. It's not like he even lost. He's like, Mali. So it was Mali. So I was right. So he's flashing this shit. Like, oh, I'm going to let you know just how proud of an Israeli I am. Even though he looks like he's probably from, I don't know, maybe he's from Brooklyn. Maybe he's from the UK. Never know. But we'll see.
Israel is not bad. Israel is not bad, but I think Mali is going to destroy them today.
So he says, no politic here, and yet here he comes with his big, stupid scarf, flashing the Star of David right at everybody to let everybody know that I'm Israeli. Look at me. But no politic here. Only I may politic here, not you. You cannot politica here. I a politica here. And he is a very short man. I will say that, Giuseppe. He's almost as short as some of the Sicilians. I'm sorry, I had to go there. But he's trying to act like a tough guy. He's really tough.
No, I'm just talking about football. I'm just talking about football.
No politic here. Okay?
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Thank you.
So you see, guys, this is what a bunch of Israelis look like. And if they were so damn tough, I mean, that kid doesn't look too big. Oh, they should totally be able to take care of him, right? No, that's what they pay people to do. That's why people that walk around with their Israeli scarves and their gauche, I mean, again, you could tell that these people have money. And for them, there is a superiority that they feel. And when somebody pushes, again, he wasn't even talking politics, but this dickhead decided, oh, no, politica here. Pro-Israel, but no politica here. And the second you go there, that is politics. And he knows it. But they do feel that they are superior. And that's part of the problem. Keep going.
Back you! Back you!
What exactly do they want? I guess this guy may be a security guard. I don't know. But what exactly is it that he wants him to do? That's what I'm still trying to figure out. What is it that he wants? This guy's being interviewed and he interjects talking about Israel, but don't you politica here. Israel wonders why people can't stand them. Yeah, you're probably right, Andrew. But this is what colonialism looks like. The level of entitlement just knows no bounds. And that's why they acted the way that they did. And that's why it was such a perfect capture. And listen, who knows if the guy in question really feels that way in terms, I mean, he probably feels the way about Free Palestine. I wouldn't doubt that he probably feels that way. But ultimately, he was provoked, and I guess it ended up becoming a worldwide viral moment, which is just further proving why people are so done with the Israel state and what they do, their culture, and how they are basically brandishing their belief in this idea that you can get away with genocide, because that is how they feel. Been doing this forever. And they've been confronted and they don't like it. They think that they can do what they want. That's why they say, F you, F you. But they started it. Somebody else is going to finish it. So when everyone talks about October 7th, it's like, yeah, October 7th was terrible, but stop pretending that that's where it started, because it didn't. Colin, can you please let me know what the other clips are?
Yeah, that first clip there was from a recent Code Pink video they put out on Twitter of them disrupting what was it? Kufi, something like that. It's a Christian Zionist event.
Ah.
And the next one is John Oliver had just done a segment. So I grabbed a clip where he did actually call what was happening a genocide.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happened with Code Pink, because we know we love those ladies and all that they do, led by Medea Benjamin.
So we're here with Crystal, who is inside the Kufi Christians United for Israel Summit and did an action. What was your action?
We disrupted John Hager when he was speaking. John Hager is the founder.
John Hager is, he honestly, he looks like a troll. Like, he really looks like a troll. That's John Hager. I'm John Hager. Preacher buffet table. That's a good one, Giuseppe.
Founder of Christians United for Israel that claims to be and is in the United States the largest Christian group that supports Israel, Christian Zionist group. He has a church in San Antonio, Texas that is Christian Zionist, and they support Israel fundamentally, ultimately, everything he does.
A huge mega church.
Huge mega church. And Christians United for Israel, their organization has 10 million members or more.
So it's even bigger than AIPAC.
Yes.
And what made you come all the way from Texas to do this action?
Because I want to speak with our interfaith partners and friends, but also on behalf of Christians to reject any sort of theology that supports violence against any human being is wrong, and that objectifies Jewish people. I love my Jewish siblings because I want them to be safe from anti-Semitism and from any other harm. I love my Palestinian siblings because I don't want them to be harmed. We wanted them to hear us say stop the genocide and that God loves Gaza and God loves Palestinians.
So you are Latina?
Yes.
And are there many Latinos that are part of the Christian Zionist movement?
Yes, it is an intentional effort on behalf of Christian Zionist organizations like Kufi to recruit from communities that are vulnerable and marginalized in the.
So this is one of the bigger problems that we don't get to talk about, and why Christian Zionism, as Jen has pointed out many times, is even more dangerous, because so much more so when it comes to Jewish Zionism is that it's much more cultural, which is still terrible. Don't get me wrong. But the Christian Zionism, you can tell, is very much a religious indoctrination in a very dangerous way. People look at John Hagee like he's some type of a deity, which is why if John Hagee says, go and support Donald Trump, they take it as like gospel. You have to do that. So there is this conscious effort to convert as many people as humanly possible into lemmings, basically, especially for the cause. Now, part of it, I'm sure, is political, but also a part of it is fundamental Christian Zionism, which is a real thing. And John Hagee's not the only one. He just happens to be one of the worst.
U.S. and beyond. I wish that the communities I come from could see the parallels between the border wall where I grew up in El Paso and the wall in Palestine and the checkpoints and the mistreatment by soldiers, to know that it's the same type of oppression. It's connected.
You know, the amazing thing about, I mean, look, hats off, of course, to Medea and Code Pink, and they obviously do a great job. I think it goes without saying that when we look around and we see all of the things that are happening, and we're seeing people really show their true stripes in terms of how they feel about certain things, the bigotry just flows, and a lot of times religion is just used as a crutch to allow them to get away with it. At least I think that that's what's going to allow them to keep doing that. The one thing I think a lot of people also forget about a lot of Christian Zionists is that they hate Jews. Like that's not something that you can understate, because that is for real. So that's an issue. But they're all united on this idea of Israel being benevolent and can do whatever they want. And so that's where the problem really kicks into high gear. But when you go to places that are not near major cityscapes, when you go to the heartland, when you go to the South, when you go to the Midwest, when you go to the Southwest, when you go to these places off of these old country roads, towns with 2,000 people, 150 miles from any major city, what do they have? They have religion. Religion's a big part of it. And a lot of it is Christian fundamentalism. And that's where a lot of this is bred, which is why when people were disrupting Pastor Hagee, people reacted the way they did. They were vulture-like. Like, how dare you question our great leader? I don't know what's going on in synagogues. My guess is that I probably wouldn't like it either. But that type of indoctrination is real. And that's why they're so forceful and aggressive and violent when dragging people out of there. But I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. I'm just saying. Not at the rate that they're going right now. Genocide doesn't allow you as much protection as you think. Maybe you think you can get away with it. You can keep trying, but I can assure you that this is a problem that's not going away. And a lot of people, while they may be afraid to speak up about the issue, there's a lot of people that are not. I happen to be one of them. So, despite what you may think, and I do not have any problems with individuals, but certain ideologies is a big problem. The hatred for the Muslim community comes from many different reasons. And one of those reasons is because they do not subscribe to the almighty dollar as the end-all be-all of everything in life. And unfortunately, that is what Judeo-Christian teachings are in the United States. And so that's why we cannot accept that. So, couldn't agree more, Donald. I don't care about your religion. Just keep it away from my government. And that is the biggest problem I have with the GOP. The Republican Party made a deal with the devil for political purposes to be in bed with the evangelical right. The Democratic Party made the same choice in a different way. Their decision was to go with Wall Street and Silicon Valley. But that religious fundamentalism within the conservative right of our nation is so dangerous. Can't overstate it. And finally, we do have what should be a very interesting clip. I happen to like John Oliver. I know that he's a liberal. I know that he definitely kowtows to the establishment in most cases. But there are times where he absolutely unequivocally, you see, John Oliver is the cable news commentator that Bill Maher and Stephen Colbert wish that they were. I still like Jon Stewart as well. But John Oliver, he's really good at this.
A phrase that gets brought up a lot with regard to Israel is never again, an anti-genocide slogan often invoked in memory of the Holocaust. And it's always been open to two interpretations. There's the one that means this must never again happen to the Jewish people, and the one that means this must never again happen to any people anywhere. And in the West Bank, as in Gaza right now, it's pretty clear which one the Israeli government has favoured, and especially as long as Netanyahu is in power. He is clearly going to do whatever he and the worst people around him wants. But the US doesn't have to continue to abet that or cover for it.
Now, that's easier said than done, and I certainly appreciate John saying that. But unless we're going to tell the truth regarding the Israel lobby led by AIPAC, regarding the fact that they are not registered as a foreign agent, that's where it begins and that's where it ends. Because that's where they're able to put endless upon endless amounts of money supply into the coffers of incumbents as well as challengers if they see that there is anybody who is not walking the line on Israel. That's a big part of it, guys. Now, I believe that John Oliver agrees and would probably share that sentiment. But that's what needs to be said. That is key. Because unless we're going down that road, it doesn't matter. The rest is just conversation. We'll keep going.
And the thing is, we do have levers at our disposal here. We could put conditions on the billions in military aid we send to Israel. We could stop.
Well, we've tried doing that, and we all have seen what that has resulted in. To even attempt to move in the direction of reducing aid, and the one thing that I will give Bernie Sanders credit for, even though I think he's definitely lost a step over the past several years, but he was pretty adamant about we must reduce conditions on what we could give to the Israelis because of what they're doing to the Palestinian people. At least he was willing to say something, because most people are willing to say nothing because their career is more important than their humanity. That's a fact.
Vetoing UN Security Council resolutions critical of the Israeli government's actions, which we've been doing for decades now. And we could say what is plain for everyone to see. These settlements aren't just illegitimate or even just illegal. They're immoral. And
he's right. They are immoral. And what's even more amazing is that we don't really talk about the West Bank and what is going on over there. For anyone who doubted that this was a genocide, you only need to look at what is going on in the West Bank. This is an apartheid state. One of the hardest things to talk about, I'll get to it in a minute. We'll finish this out.
Only should we say that, we should then act accordingly. And I know the bar here is incredibly low. But I guess at the very least, I just want my government to have the moral backbone that's been shown by Ben and fucking Jerry's.
What's interesting is that his backbone, well, the backbone he's referring to is for both the United States and the United Kingdom. That's where he's from, and of course, where he lives is the U.S. Jen had the opportunity to go and speak the other day at the Men's and Women's Club of Century Village in Pembroke Pines. It is a predominantly 80-plus-year-old Jewish group who obviously pretty much all love Israel. And what was unique about that conversation was that, for the most part, I think people got it. I think they did get it. And we walked out of that room with a lot of people saying that they're going to support her, which is great. Every opportunity to connect with them is a big deal. It's an opportunity to get us one step closer to where we need to go. But when the issue of Israel came up, you got a lot of negative reactions from people in the group. Now, I was there to back her up, and I think we did a good job together. But it's pretty obvious that for many people, this is a make or break issue. And they're willing to allow their emotions and their irrational thought process to guide them. And that's a problem. If you allow that to supersede everything else that's going on, well, we'll be where we are. And that's why we haven't been able to get away from this yet, because indoctrination is real. It is very real. And to get people to change their ways, it's a problem. I had a lot that I had to get off my chest tonight. I hope you guys appreciated it. I didn't want it to have to come down this way, but it ultimately needed to. Because win or lose, that type of shit's got to stop. We are either attempting to make real fundamental change in this country for the better, or we're not. And there are a lot of people who are going to work against us. Even, like I said, people who you would think are on your side, but sometimes they're just not. And it's sad. Politics is a dirty business. I'm only in it because I believe in the cause that much. If it wasn't for that, I would not have anything to do with it. Why would anyone want to subject themselves to this type of stress or this type of pain and loneliness? Like, if you're not a team player, oh boy, look out. That's a dangerous place to be in politics. When you try to go rogue, when you try to be an independent, when you try to think differently than the herd, oh, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous place to be. But it's the right place to be. So I don't have to question it. And that's where the point comes. I always try to take the high road when they go low. I've always taken it. But when you systematically try to cheat the process, there is no other choice. And that was always Bernie's greatest sin. Bernie knew he was being cheated in Iowa with the coin flips. And that's just what you see. I happen to know who ran the entire operation in Iowa, and I can assure you it's a hell of a lot worse than you think. You want to talk about bribery? This whole system is basically shot. I can't determine that, Mario. I just know when it comes to the people I deal with at the state level. No one has lifted a hand in that group. There's a lot of labor unions that have refused to even get involved. The entrenchment's real. It's dangerous, and it puts a lot of people in a very precarious place. I can't live any other way than transparently honest and open and being black and white. That's how I see the world. I can't live any other way. I can't deny these things. I can't cheat. But I know that my voice matters, and I know that Jen's voice matters a hell of a lot. So that's why we're doing this. If it works, if we pull it off, wonderful. If we don't pull it off, we'll find another way, whatever it's going to be. But what these people do is something that probably goes on everywhere. And why, when everyone looks around and wonders why things keep getting bad and the prospect of Trump winning again is possible, it's because of this shit. It's just a dishonest system. And it's got to change. At some point, it's just going to change. And it's either going to change politely or it's going to change aggressively. And I think we're heading in that aggressive direction. You can't bury your head in the sand forever. You can't pretend like, oh my God, this is great. And let me tell you, the shit that I see in chats with the way people are literally like fawning over each other for supporting Kamala Harris, you just wait until they start talking about her record as the Attorney General of California and the things that she did with prison labor, among other things. There's a reason people call her a cop. Now, I don't buy it, I don't play into that stuff because that's to me is just, I don't play into the petty mudslinging shit. However, there was a lot there. And now when I'm already seeing messages from Elon Musk saying that Google is manipulating the algorithm when it comes to things to search for, when it comes to Kamala Harris, what do you think that's going to do? That's going to help Trump significantly because people are tired of this. And again, I'm not trying to advocate for him in any way. I'm just speaking objectively, which is something a lot of people don't like hearing. If Jen had a fair shot against Wasserman Schultz, she would absolutely win, no questions asked. She might still win. But I am telling you now, if the party actively participated in the democratic process and allowed people to present their case as who is the best candidate, Jen would win. Not even a question. There's still a lot of people who don't know that she's running. And that's partially the party's fault. I mean, we do what we can. That's really our responsibility. But the party works against us. Jen was one of the main organizers in Broward County for gathering signatures for Amendment 4 this past year. Women's reproductive freedom. Apparently the most important issue that's going to be on the ballot in November. And they don't fucking care. You know why? Because it's not about that. It's about the status quo and maintaining the corporate special interest infrastructure. That is it. If anyone else thinks it's anything other than that, you're a fool. Pure and simple. You're just a fool. I'm telling you this because this is how it is. I'm in this. And I'm in it in a big way. So just know what you're getting yourself into. It doesn't mean that change can't happen. But understand that the distraction that comes from the top, the fear, it's all put together for the purpose of maintaining the status quo, period. I want to thank all of you guys for coming this evening. I think this has been a lively discussion, and you guys have all been great. Travers, Donald James, Ghislaine Conspiracy, JKW Jewish. You don't like my music? Bass Chat Thunderjock, Devastator, Jay Boggs, Sandra Looney, Mario, Yes But No, Salma Shalom, Holly Horn, Henry Kajawa, Sable Minor. Got a big crowd tonight. You guys have been popping in and out. I like it. Ray J, Jen Perelman, Colonello Valerio, excuse me. Carl's 4948, Giuseppe, Mepepi, Jimmy Zimzam, PC 3244, Jeff W, Kat Negrita, Karina Cunningham, appreciate you being here. Really want you to come door knock with us. 72 Marshflower 15. Keep thinking that looks like marshmallow, but it is not. Something else. Genesis 5020. Sam Stan. Very lively chat. 7th level of hell. And that is a great message. If you're in the district, please continue to spread the word. Again, David Crane, Sufficient Spirulina, checked in at the chat. Remember, that's the Facebook group you can check out. Nashaba Chomak Shudi, I can't post your message, but I appreciate you coming in. The Freedom House 1984, Clashmore, Chris Garrett, Jules T. Who else we got? Man, this chat's long. Guys are just going. See if there's anybody else. Anybody else? Always want to make sure. Asmuth setting. You checked in early. Appreciate you being here. Maybe it. Maybe it. And that's all she wrote. Jules was here, Donald James. Jules was here. I appreciate you, my friend. Wish we could get a little bit more of that compassion that Canada has down here. So I got to tell you, most people don't care about anybody but themselves and maybe their immediate family and friends, and that's about it. Oh, and Elvis is a cat. Elvis is cat. Oh, and thank you. So that said, appreciate you all. Keep kicking butt. And one more thing. If you are so inclined, and you know I have to ask because it's very important, you know that our good friend is running. You may want to get over to gen2024.org and potentially, give a little something if you can, because everything is going to count as we hit the home stretch. Just so you know, as I mentioned earlier, we're hitting over 5,000 doors a week. That's a lot, but we got to keep going. Got to keep growing because we got to give Jen the best shot possible to win. That's what it's all about. Thank you all. Have a great night. See you Thursday.